Hey, it's Jim again with a quick take on whether Amtrak should be privatized. You know, that privatization idea just keeps coming up over and over again like a bad lunch. And every time it comes up, it's just as dumb as it was the last time. So here's 5 reasons why privatizing Amtrak won't work. Number 1, there's no passenger rail service anywhere on planet Earth that can cover all its costs and make a profit just by selling tickets. None. Nowhere. Now, somewhere in the comments below, someone's going to type "actually" and name some systems. But they'd be wrong. Japan Shinkansen? Nope. The Japanese government covers the capital costs: rails, electrical systems, ties, tunnels, all the rest. Same for France's famous TGV and the Italo in Italy. In the train business, that's called above the rail. Now, these systems do make a profit above the rail, meaning if you only count the operational cost of running each train. But once you pay for all the infrastructure, well, you're back in the red. Well, actually, what about Brightline in Florida or Hong Kong's MTR transit system? Nope, wrong again. What they do is something I wish Amtrak could do more of. They own the real estate, so they make money not just selling tickets, but developing office buildings, condos, mixed-use retail, stuff like that around their stations. It's smart. There's a term for that when governments do it: transit-oriented development. And it's not a bad model for us to use more broadly. Brightline especially has a really beautiful customer-centered product. Truly, I really love it. And even with the real estate subsidy, so far it's running in the red too, just like Amtrak, only worse, because their deficit's about 2/3 of the size of Amtrak's, but right now they're only serving 6 destinations. Amtrak can take you to more than 500. Number 2, even if you break up Amtrak, you still have to pay for the infrastructure. The trains have to run on tracks. Amtrak's aging fleet, a kind of rolling museum of 40-year-old equipment, has to be replaced. We're running trains through tunnels built just after the Civil War. I could go on and on. Now, whether Amtrak's private or public, Amtrak 2.0 or whatever bits and pieces remain afterwards would still have to find a way to build what's needed. Number 3, if you drop the so-called money-losing long-distance routes, you might very well save Amtrak money, but you'll wipe out billions of dollars in GDP. Here's the secret: those trains to tiny little towns all across America propel the economies in these places. Hundreds of restaurants, bars, hotels, tourist attractions, private businesses thrive because the trains deliver people and their wallets to spend their money. And that keeps the staffs employed, makes wholesale food orders for restaurants, generates local sales and real estate tax revenue. You see, Amtrak trains are an example of why governments spend money in capitalist economies. Just like inspecting raw chicken or forecasting tornadoes or maintaining air traffic control centers, we spend taxpayer dollars to create the preconditions for the success of private capital. We make it safe to invest. We till the soil and water the crops. We spend about $3 billion a year to have an Amtrak, and the U.S. economy gets a bit more than $10 billion of GDP for that investment. That's a pretty good deal. And gutting the long-distance trains, well, that kills that return. Number 4, privatizing Amtrak means only the routes that can make money above the rail, I just used that term again, above the rail, will have service. You'll still charge Philadelphia lawyers $300 to take a fast express train to New York, but Grandma on Marks, Mississippi, well, she's SOL. Her grandkids in Memphis will have to come to her, probably in a car, where their risk of dying is 17 times higher on the highways than on trains. That is, if they come at all. And then number 5, and this is the biggest duh. We already had private passenger rail, and it went bankrupt. Why does anyone think it's going to be any different now? Amtrak exists because the big private railroads were hemorrhaging cash. So Republican President Richard Nixon, yep, that guy, signed into law legislation Congress created to absorb the passenger routes that these railroads were running. It's basically a giant taxpayer-funded bailout of the railroad industry. We'll take the whole thing off your hands: coaches, locomotives, routes, employees, labor contracts, pensions, all of it. And your side of the bargain is that you let our Amtrak trains go first on your networks. Well, actually, the Northeast Corridor between New York and Washington could be profitable. Nope. Here's what a lot of people don't remember. The Northeast Corridor is what's left of the Penn Central, a private railroad that went bankrupt, and Amtrak bought the carcass. A lot of the big fans of privatization point out that Amtrak coaches are kind of tired and worn. Sometimes the service is great, other times it's surly. Sometimes the food's awesome, and sometimes it's meh. And more often than not, and more often than it should be, it's late, mostly due to freight railroads illegally holding up Amtrak trains for cargo. All that's true. But privatizing doesn't fix any of those problems. All these people who look at Shinkansen or TGV or China ignore the common denominator that makes those systems so great: government money. You get what you pay for. China has paid a lot since 2004, $1.5 trillion with a T. But they also built 26,000 miles of dedicated high-speed rail. When they were building an average of 2,100 kilometers of rail each year, in the US, we were building 0. So there you go. The answer is investment, not privatizing. Spend the money to get what we need, want, and deserve, and produce about 4 times as much as you spend in the form of GDP. Tell your friends, share this video, and I'll see you on the train. Hey, it's Jimmy.